Welcome back to the arena. I am Michael Corrin. Now, writing on the CBC website today, the highly experienced and, I have to say, immensely capable foreign reporter and journalist Neil MacDonald exposed what he perceived as a double standard when it came to the international condemnation of terrorism. The world was, he said, using unprecedented rhetoric, hyperbole about ISIS, but has said very little about what was going on in the Congo for many years. Look, he has a certain point. As he said so well in his piece, in Congo, mass rape, forced cannibalism, yes, and other such satanic cruelty has been practiced for years, yet the most the West does is to, carry out financial punishment for the perpetrators. He states hypocrisy and implies a racism, or at least a self-obsession, in explaining the fundamentally different reactions to all of this. Now, to a degree, he is correct. Africa was, for example, smashed and battered by AIDS long before we paid any attention to the disease, only after it threatened us directly in the West. Similarly, in some ways, with ISIS, because we see Westerners tortured and beheaded, and we can suddenly empathize and identify. All true, without doubt, and I'm also culpable. I've got enormous admiration for Neil MacDonald. Let me say this. Even though I might not always agree with him, I should also make it entirely clear that his daughter is one of my producers. She's a very good producer, too. Whether she's a very good daughter or not, I've got no idea. But this is where I believe Neil has got it slightly wrong, or at least hasn't completed the picture and the analysis. There are aspects of the racism of lowered expectations here, certainly, in that we assume Africans will act this way and we don't care too much about a continent where people kill, die, starve so often. Yes, it's brutal, awful, isn't it? But it's also true. We care more about our pets than we do about African children. But, sir, we don't genuinely care about Arabs that much either. And we also expect, yes, it's also awful, lack of civility and civilization on their part. And this partly explains the horrendously one-sided coverage of Israel and Palestine. Yes, Mr. MacDonald, many of your colleagues are culpable here. Where if Israel kills, 100 Palestinians, it is genocidal. But if neighboring Syria kills 1,000 people, it's ignored. If Israel builds a wall to defend itself against suicide bombers murdering Jewish teenagers, it's apartheid. If Lebanon bans Palestinians from dozens of occupations, if Jordanian soldiers beat Palestinian protesters senseless, if Turkey occupies 2 foreign countries, if the Arab world expels millions of Jewish people, it doesn't really matter very much. So yes, the racism of lowered expectations. But there's more to this. Congo is an open wound and should bleed compassion and sympathy rather than indifference. It is wrong, wrong, wrong. But because we do not react properly to one crisis doesn't mean we should ignore another. ISIS is expansionist. It is consuming cities, cultures, and peoples, and it has no intention of stopping. Those of us who understand and know the region have for some time been arguing that while the deaths of Westerners is obviously tragic, it's the deaths of so many more local people, indigenous people, that is far worse. Westerners volunteer to be there. The people who live there, well, they've got no choice. Also, and this is vital, ISIS is merely the most obvious, obnoxious, hideous example of a far greater and deeper problem. Islamic fundamentalism is infecting the entire world. Mr. MacDonald, have you seen what is going on? I'm sure you have, not so far away from Congo, in Nigeria, in particular those northern states that have embraced Sharia law. The slaughter by Muslim fanatics is colossal and constant. Or Indonesia, the Philippines, Sudan, Egypt, Pakistan, the Maldives, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and Syria, of course, and even now Australia, the US, the UK, France, and Scandinavia. I really could go on. So, as obscene as the Congo situation might be, and as much as we should help and perhaps intervene, the attempt by Islamism to impose its will on the world is a tangible threat. And this is about far more than self-interest. To all of you, it's about sheer self-survival.